Altrincham FC are the closest professional non-league club to my team Manchester United, and today we are looking to take Altrincham to Champions League winners. Now we already sit in the Premier League after winning the Championship last season with some of United's former youth academy players like Ethan Wheatley and Toby Collier, but now it's time to come out of their shadow and become the biggest team in Greater Manager. So welcome to turning Altrincham FC into Champions League winners. We left the first part of this two-part series as Altrincham beat Sunderland in the playoff finals, finishing 5th in the Championship in our 3rd season here and our 9th season into football here in the FM universe. The winning goal coming from Manchester United Academy graduate Ethan Wheatley. But today's the big step. We have got Altrincham to being a Premier League club, even though we were predicted to come 24th in the media prediction for the Championship. And if you haven't heard already, we are using a tactic created by my girlfriend. Now, she got a lot of plaudits in the last episode that she is basically a new Pep Guardiola for this absolutely mental 3-2-3-2 system, which actually plays in a 2-1-2-3-2 system due to the libero in the middle of the defence. Now, our goal here with Altrincham is to survive. We have negative £3 million in the bank, and the board have given us a grand total of £25 million in transfer budget. There is a brand new stadium which has now been built. It is the Phil Parkinson Park, which is an absolute joke how it's not called the Kempi XI Arena, because we've got this club from the National League to the Championship in 9 seasons. I mean, we have worked absolute wonders, more than Phil Parkinson had ever done, but nevertheless, we are now taking them into the Premier League. We have got a bunch of money to sign, and throughout today, I'm going to show you my new favourite method of signing hidden regens in an FM24 save. If you haven't already been and seen episode 1, it is a 52-minute video of exactly how you can take a non-league club to the Premier League in a step-by-step guide showing you exactly what I've done. I fully recommend going over there and watching that one and then coming along this journey as we take Altrincham to Champions League winners. Now, throughout this rebuild, the most amount of money we have spent is 6.25k on Damani Mella back in our 2nd season in this rebuild. And today, we aren't going to rise that dramatically. We're going to spend just 1.5 million in our goal into becoming a Premier League side in Gavin Bazunu. Coming in from Burnley, he is a top-tier goalkeeper at 30 years of age. We know how good this guy can be. He hasn't quite hit his prime as we are in now season number 10 in this rebuild, but hopefully he can keep the ball out of the back of the net. And if you didn't see part 1, we concede a lot of shots, and we normally concede about 120 goals a season, but we score about 170, which means it's amazing fun. But in terms of the rest of the signings, I have stuck to our free agent principle. As mentioned, our only other signing was £6,000 of Damani Mella. So first up, it's Zane Blake joining from Nottingham Forest. Actually looks like a really good Premier League quality striker / winger. Great finishing, great determination, and great speed at just 24 years of age. Is a real life person as well, so pretty awesome to see Zane Blake in the team for us. Alessio Fortino is a regen, a free agent signed from Napoli. Ibane Boat is next up, a free agent signed from, I don't believe we actually know where Ibane Boat was previously. He was at Cardiff. He obviously starts out at Portsmouth and has had a decent career throughout the Championship and League One. And believe it or not, we're going to take him into the Premier League. Bjorn Hardley is the man I'm signing up next. This guy, again, came through the Manchester United Academy, but has outrageous physical stats, great determination, and brilliant defending as well. David Skelton is up next, a very pacey right winger. Tom Woodhouse, the next, a decent English striker. And finally, it's Jacob Brown coming in to purely be a rotational option. This guy wasn't good enough for Luton in the Premier League in the 23-24 season, so I don't know why I think he'd be good enough for Altrincham in the 31-32 season, but nevertheless, he's here, and this is the Altrincham side. We have Gavin Bazunu in goal with Bjorn Hardley, Ibane Boat, and Pocklington as our back three. In DM, we have Fortino and Aberdeen Garber, the previous signing from Arsenal in midfield. Zane Blake goes on to the left wing, Nicky Rains also through the United Academy on the right wing, with Tom James in cam, and Ethan Wheatley and Omari Benjamin taking up these striking positions here as we go in to a Premier League season where, I'm going to be honest, I expect to get absolutely battered. We are 1,000 to 1 to win the league. The next is 350 to 1 Derby County. Financially, I'm not sure we're ready for this at all. We've got £5 million in the bank, and there's a reason I only spend £1.5 million in transfer budget, because I actually believe the best thing for the club would be parachute payments and getting relegated down to the Championship. Now, in no way am I saying I'm going to throw this season, but if we can get relegated and keep our job, I would actually be over the moon, because we can then really take this club into the next step with a full season of Premier League money, which is 80 million, and then the parachute payments of another 80 million. And as mentioned, finances wise, we've never got above 4 million in the bank. So £160 million to take Altrincham to the next step sounds like the ideal thing to happen. But let's see if we can somehow defy the odds and stay up in the Premier League. We put up the fight of all fights this season, and it started off as a complete baptism of fire with 12 goals conceded in our opening 3 games to Liverpool, Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur. But as we went through the season, things really weren't that bad. As mentioned, we were going to concede a lot of goals, but surprisingly enough, there was a decent few victories in there as well. The main thing we need to stay in the Premier League is to have someone that is an absolute superstar, scoring goal after goal, and Ethan Wheatley is that man. He scored 3 minutes in against Southampton to give us a 1-goal lead, and again in the 14th minute, just showing his goal-scoring prowess in this difficult victory. In fact, he grabbed a total of 22 goals in the Premier League alone this season. And I mean, since he's joined us from Middlesbrough, he's scored 117 goals in 197 games. But was it enough to keep us in the Premier League this year? And when it came all the way down to the final day of the season, where we actually get relegated. On 26 points, we were level with Leicester on a negative 60 goal difference. And on the final day of the season, we lose 4-2 to Southampton in the opposite leg to what I just showed you. Well, Leicester, well, they drew to Everton and got that final point to give them safety. And as you can tell, I'm not angry. As mentioned, I didn't think this was the worst thing that could happen. And already at the end of this season, we have £47 million in the bank. And you can just see the graph looks completely and utterly ridiculous, the amount of money we get for being in the Premier League. We have cleared off all of that debt since building our brand new stadium. And I genuinely think we could be on to bigger and better things. I've actually just realised this is now a new stadium. This is the Tough Sheet Community Stadium, which holds 29,000 people to come and watch Altrincham play now Championship football. But a third new stadium in one career is absolutely mental. And it's all down because we were in the Premier League and we've been relegated and we've got the money. Now, Ethan Wheatley was by far and away the best player in this side with a 7.19 and, of course, scoring all of them goals. There was some other decent players in here like Zane Blake, Amari Benjamin, Tom Woodhouse, Mohamed Anovu, Abidou Garba and Tom James, who grabbed 12 assists as well. But it is now time to rebuild. But we have got a substantial amount of money compared to what we are used to. £17 million in the transfer budget. And it's now time to rebuild Altrincham into what we should have been when we got promoted, the best side in the Championship. And we are now going to move on to the scouting method of how I'm going to bring players in for pretty much the rest of this rebuild. And we are going to do a full breakdown in a couple of days' time, showing you guys exactly how to implement this, how to identify players. And trust me, it is going to change the way you play Football Manager in the future when you're trying to find then hidden regens. We're going to be using a method of using international youth appearances and international appearances and simply going through every single nation you think there could be some decent players in and having an in-depth look at all the players that are there. As mentioned, a full in-depth video is going to come out on exactly how to do that and identify these players in a couple of days' time. You can see from our shortlist just some of them that we haven't quite gone for, either due to value or to not quite being good enough. I mean, some of them are really, really good, and these haven't quite made it into our team. A team we've spent just £4.5 million on and completely rebuilt. Our first signing is the £1.7 million signing of Sebastian Hall, coming in from Melbourne City. He already has a value of £39 million. just showing how good this method is. You have to be careful in England because of your ESC slots. Sadly, Australia isn't quite a nation which gets you a guaranteed work permit. So Sebastian Hall has got one of them slots, but let's move on to some players that don't need them. Our 850k brand new centre-back in Roger Duarte, who has 15 caps for Costa Rica at 18 years of age, while having extreme consistency. What a bargain that is. And well, if you thought that was a bargain, this is actually one of my favourite signings in the whole rest of this rebuild, is Yanis Ziane, coming in from USM Alger, where he's played 107 games before being 19 years of age. He has 12 caps for the Algerian national team, looks absolutely fantastic, and has extreme consistency, and cost us just £350,000. Next up, a signing from Haroya AC is a very quick Guinean winger who cost us £30,000 while having extreme consistency and love of big matches. The free agent signing of Kenjiro Sonoda is up next. He has extreme determination, great physicals, and brilliant mental and technical attributes. And the final signing using this method is Matej Marinic, a Slovenian striker signed from Koper for just over £1 million. Again, consistent, good finishing and composure with decent speed. He's going to be a great backup to Ethan Wheatley. Our two other signings were loan signing Ian Davidson coming in from Coventry City, and the free agent goalkeeper of Junior Godwin coming in from Chelsea. Now, this guy is predicted a 2-star current ability by our scouts, and I'm looking him in to be our goalkeeper for the rest of this season, showing once again why I do not trust the scouting star ratings. This guy has 16 area reach, 16 jumping reach, 17 determination, is consistent, he likes big matches, he's got a fairly determined personality, and is going to be absolutely fantastic. We have completely rebuilt our team for £4.7 million, and Altrincham are now ready to take on the championship, led by Ethan Wheatley and Amari Benjamin. The three behind them, Zane Blake, Tom James, and Mohamed Anovo. Two midfielders of Fortino and Hall, with Ziane, Duarte, Bowat, and Godwin in goal. And my favourite thing about this relegation, because I wanted the relegation, was now we have £82 million in our overall bank. And Altrincham, we're super rich. Even the game thinks so. And I think we are ready to take the championship by storm and return to the Premier League in a much better position. And well, yeah, I'm not going to waste too much time. We absolutely smashed it in the championship, finishing top of the table on 83 points and making Altrincham championship winners. The top two average ratings, Ethan Wheatley and Amari Benjamin. Amari Benjamin with the second most goals in the league. Assist-wise, Zane Blake, Tom James were right up there, and yellow cards, we love to see it. Roger Duarte with 44 games and a whole bunch of 17 yellow cards. That is my centre-back. Financially, of course, being out of the Premier League and having the higher wage budget we do now have, we did drop down to £50 million in the bank, and the board have given us just £6 million to go and spend on 104k in wage budget. Now, that's partly because I've already started the transfer dealings. Amari Benjamin is leaving the club and joining Al Riyadh for £14 million. Now, he did just grab 36 goal contributions in 41 games, but I think I've done a pretty good job of replacing him, and I've spent a fair bit of money to do it as well. I've brought in Rodrigo Braz from Braga. He's a 5-star player with ridiculous stats who was willing to join us. Now, I found him because obviously he's Portuguese and has caps already, but to be honest, if anyone doesn't know about him in the world of football at this stage, what are you doing? He is a wonder kid. He is either-footed. He did cost me £38 million, but I think we might have signed the best striker in the game at just 20 years of age. So for the rest of the signings, we only spent £4 million and once again brought in some absolute superstars. Yao Sibo is our first, a Ghanaian centre-back, central midfielder, central attacker midfielder. I'm not too sure what his best position is, but he has electric speed, he's great defensively, he's great mentally, he has 20 caps for Ghana. We've signed him from Benfica, and he's cost us 750k. I mean, I don't understand how these players are so cheap, but we are getting some super bargains. And next up was a loan signing from Inter Milan as they pipped us to the post to bring in Ibrahim Assar from Salento. We have brought him to the club. He is a Senegalese centre-back, as I said, on loan from Inter Milan. 950k is what we are spending on him. He looks absolutely fantastic, and he's going to be a really top-tier centre-back for us. Next up is Jack Page, a free agent signing brought in from West Ham United, who has fantastic mental stats and extreme consistency. Before signing Gabriel Noah on a free agent contract from Colombe Sportive, on a free contract from Cameroon, where he has grabbed 20 goals in the last 2 seasons. He's gone straight out on loan to Young Boys, as we couldn't give him a work permit, and I did want to allocate him an ESC spot. He's already worth £17 million. We are like the new Chelsea. We are bringing in wonder kids from all over the world, sending them out on loan, and if I sell this guy for literally £1,000, it was a massive dub. So you'll see throughout this rebuild, we're going to make a lot of sales as well. And my final signing is another 3-agent contract in Keane Kinsella, coming in from Aston Villa. I can't believe they've got rid of him. 14 finishing, 14 composure, great physical stats, 16 off the ball, consistent, likes big matches, just hasn't quite done it at Villa over the last 2 seasons. In fact, since 2028, when they signed him from Manchester City, his best season's been in League One, scoring 12 goals, or last season the Championship for Blackburn, 13 goals in 37. I think he is fantastic, and in our system it's going to be absolutely broken, but we do have some sad news to finish this off. A 30-year-old Toby Collier has left Altrincham after 296 games for the club. He has gone to Zaragoza for £150,000. He joined us in League 2 and was a dominating player all the way until we got to the Premier League. Last season, didn't play any games for us, so we have sold him to Zaragoza. But a club legend for sure, Toby Collier, has left the club. And well, this is our new look side, and yes, it looks very, very different, to the point where even Ethan Wheatley is technically now on the bench, because I believe Keane Kinsella is going to be better than him. Rodrigo Braz is his strike partner. What a player he is going to be for us. Zane Blake on the left, Tom James on the right, Mohamed Onovo and Cam. Page and Hall in midfield is absolutely fantastic, and a great sort of pair for each other. Page definitely the more ball-winning player, Hall the creative outlet. Sarr, Ziane and Sibo make up our 3, and Junior Godwin, who was absolutely fantastic last season by the way, is our goalkeeper going into the Premier League. He grabbed a 7.02 average rating despite conceding 94 goals. As mentioned, we concede a lot of goals in this tactic. Still grabbing a 7.02 probably just shows you how many shots this guy faced. Now, of course, once again, we are bottom of the league in terms of the media prediction, 1,000 to 1. But I do believe now we are in a much, much stronger place than we were just a couple of seasons ago in the Premier League. Financially, we are much better off. Our squad is much better off. The value in our squad is so much better off. I mean, Yao Sibo, already worth 65 million after being signed for 750k, is absolutely mental. And I will just show you, because I know people won't believe me in terms of the game status. There is no in-game editor at all in this save. We are just using the scouting method that, again, I will show you properly in a couple of days, and it works. An absolute treat. I mean, the amount of superstars we have signed is ridiculous. Let's get involved to this Premier League season and see if we can survive this time around. Well, I tell you what, Rodrigo Braz makes me feel physically sick. He is one of the best strikers I have ever used on a Football Manager, and scored 24 goals in the Premier League this year. He was partnered by Sean Kinsella as well, who grabbed 13 and 9 assists as our strike partnership got us Premier League safety. Absolute massive dub. You can see here from the league positions as well, we actually were safe. I don't think we ever dropped into the relegation zone. We did for a game week and a few game weeks here as well. But to be honest, the whole second half of the season, we were safe, and we finished 5 points above Southampton, a whole bunch against Leicester and Coventry City. But Rodrigo Braz, what a signing we have made. Now, he is already asking to leave the club. He wanted us to be strengthened a lot. Of course, when you're a 5-star, world-class Portuguese goal-scoring striker, you don't really want to be joining Altrincham, so I did have to give him a lot of money. I did also have to give him a release clause, though, of £81 million, which, considering he just had that season in the Premier League, grabbing a 7.31, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes. But I mean, again, what we've just done here has made Altrincham a super powerhouse side in the space of 2 seasons. And financially, we are mega rich. And we have got some players which we could sell for stupid money. Even Gabriel Noah, who was just out on loan at Young Boys, played 42 games, got 14 goals and is worth £12 million. Remember, we got this guy for free on a contract from a Cameroonian club, Colombe Sportive, and he's gone out to the Swiss top division and absolutely smashed it. So I think we're going to sell this guy and take our profit while we can. And in terms of the rest of them, I mean, Yao Sibo, 20 games this season, a 6.7. Zane Blake, worth 45 million. 14 goal contributions this season. Yanis Siane, 6.72. Kinsella, of course, fantastic. Tuarte, worth £30 million at 20 years of age. Fantastic. Junior Godwin, once again, 40 games, a 6.96. Again, would have conceded 95 goals in 36 games. But his stats are so good. And I just knew a player with this well-rounded of stats would be great for this team. One thing I haven't done so far with this tactic is edit anything from when we were a non-league club. And now that we are a Premier League club, I am going to go through and make some changes to this tactic. I'm going to keep the complete same system, the exact same player roles, etc. But we're now no longer going to be like a pump the ball long and be disciplined side. I think we're now at a level where we are building a very strong team and we can actually take the game to people. So let's make some new transfers, sell some players that haven't quite worked out, and build an improved version of the 3-2-3-2. Now, our first order of business was to bring Ibrahim Assar in on a permanent deal after joining Inter Milan a few seasons ago for 235k. We have bit the bullet after last season and signed him for £6 million because, to be honest, he is very, very good and I wanted to see him back in an Altrincham kit, this time on a permanent basis. I only made 2 other signings and this one cost me 58k. Signed from Lada Bloslav, we have a Czech striker who has 10 caps for them with 16 finishing, 19 determination, ridiculous physical stats, extreme consistency, one of the best traits you can get of placing shots, and as I said, cost £58,000. This scouting method genuinely might be the most broken thing I've ever seen. And to cap it off, we have a brand new goalkeeper also joining the club. It is Thokozani Tshwane coming in as a South African goalkeeper from Sundowns FC. He played 53 games there because he did 41 goals and cost us £500,000, despite the last 2 seasons grabbing a 7.93 and 7.61. He is their first team goalkeeper with 6 caps. He has got 14 area reach, 15 jumping reach, 16 one-on-ones, 16 reflexes, and is consistent. Also having 15 determination. Another absolutely unbelievable signing. My next signing is a Welsh centre-back in Brandon Rees joining from Liverpool. We decided we needed to bring a bit of homegrown talent into the club as well, and Brandon is that guy. Next up is the £2.8 million signing of Jonas Andre Model coming in from Rosenborg. And oh my God, what a signing we have got here. Fantastic technicals, fantastic mentals, fantastic physical stats. 20 years of age, 11 caps, 1 goal. Cost us £2.5 million. Apologies if I just said that we only made 3 signings this summer. I clicked onto the next page and there was more signings. So if I have said that and it wasn't cut out, I apologise. Jonas Andre Modovo is our next signing, already worth 39 million, by the way. Before going quite big on a signing, because I think we needed a superstar libero to join the club, it is Hassan Bakir. He could play all the way across the defence and in central defence midfield, and has cost us £14 million from Toulouse. Mauricio Rodriguez is my next signing, a winger joined from Mongas SC in Ecuador. I've sent him straight out on loan to Troyes in France. This guy has been unbelievable since joining Mongas from Caracas, and is already worth £6 million. Is got consistency, likes big matches, and is going to be very good for us, even just to make a few £1 million. Before our actual final signing in, Jonathan Cardenio signed from AC Milan. Now, we were actually late on this guy as he went to El Nacional and eventually joined AC Milan last season for £1.8 million. We have spent an extra £6 million to bring him in, but he looks absolutely brilliant. In terms of outgoings, there wasn't many. Just the 2, to be honest, in Garba joining Cadiz and Alessio Fortino joining Cadiz for £2.4 million. Again, financially, This is super mega rich for where we have been in previous years. £40 million in the bank. Our wage budget, we are now spending £1 million a week, which is very different to our, what was it, 650k to get promoted from League One. So we are now spending a lot of money, but the squad we've built, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. Kinsella and Rodrigo Braz are our two strikers. Blake, Modell and Cadeno make up the three in behind. Page and Sibo are going to go into midfield with Bakir, Sar, Ziane and Tishwale making up the defence. We've got a fantastic squad with a whole bunch of different nations in it. And again, you have to be a little bit clever because we are going to get to a point where we are going to be in Europe and our team could be built full of a bunch of players that don't fit the correct registration rules. So that's why we're making signings like Brandon Rees and Jack Page and Zane Blake, just to keep that registration rules going on. In terms of homegrown players, that's rough. This squad is not built homegrown players at all. In fact, we are now slowly building the club up. We have 2.5-star training facilities and 2.5-star youth facilities and 3.5-star in youth recruitment. That's a big upgrade from when I last showed you, I believe. But they are really not very good at improving these, no matter how much I ask, and no matter how much the owner loves the club. They will always love keeping money in the bank more than improving the facilities, which is very frustrating. I have just noticed as well, we've moved back to the Phil Parkinson Park. I don't quite know why, and I can't quite see why we went to a new stadium with 30k in it for one season. Very, very odd. But the Phil Parkinson Park, well, it's still ours. Now, this is the first season out of this whole rebuild where I will mention the two cups because we actually done quite well before getting knocked out in both of them against fairly big sides. A 2-1 loss here to Chelsea and losing to eventual winners of the Carabao Cup, Liverpool, in the fourth round. Fifth and fourth round is about as good as it's got recently, and in terms of the Premier League, it is as good as it has been recently. We've finished in 14th place on 36 points and a very, very decent season. Now, this middle gap of the rebuild, I am going to speed things up just a little bit because, to be honest, we're just signing lots and lots of wonder kids and finishing mid-table season on season on season, eventually building an absolute super team. We are still going to touch on the players that we do sign. Rodrigo Braz and Jonas Andre Modell were our two top goal scorers this season. Remember, Modell was signed for just £2.5 million from Rosenborg and has just grabbed 16 goals and 4 assists for us and is now worth 42 million. This scout method is just an absolute joke. And the rest of the team is progressing very, very well. I do have now think we have got a few too many players that aren't quite going to make it, and it's time to maybe sell a few and bring some new players in. Financially, £80 million in the bank, and we are now a pretty rich team in terms of spending money as well. £48 million in transfer budget, 33k in wage budget, but it's now time to speed run to a point where we're actually challenging for European competitions. For season number 14, we made the executive decision to bring in a new superstar striker next to Rodrigo Braz, his Portuguese mate, Brahima Diallo, who grabbed 21 goals in his first year for the club. We also signed Croatian centre-back Mislav Krujic, Mustafa Kamel, the Egyptian goalkeeper from Future, Adrian Mihalescu, the Romanian central midfielder from University Cracovia for £4.4 million, and this guy is an absolute joke. Gabriel Dejanova, a Bulgarian striker from Lokomotiv Plovdiv for 1.4 million, with that finishing in composure and ridiculous speed. Aldin Sabanovic was up next. For £1 million, we signed him from Sarajevo. Jean Carlos Ramirez was a striker we signed from Venezuela. And Abdullah Al Ghamdi is a Algerian central midfielder we signed from CS Constantine. Now, this season was the first year where we started to offload some players that didn't quite work out. So Mauricio Rodriguez left to Augsburg, Mikel Holenak left to Heidenheim, Gabriel Noah left to Montpellier, and Sebastian Hall had left the club to Ipswich Town. We raised £15 million there, and all of them signings were dirt cheap, including Holenak, who cost us just 58k one season ago. With our brand new strike partnership and our new superstar signings, we were an absolute force to be reckoned with. Brahim Diallo grabbed an opening goal in a 4-0 demolition of Coventry City, a club which have actually come a long way since the start of this rebuild. But with this game, we just showed the quality we now had up front. Braz and Giello linking up constantly to absolutely batter teams. And I want to show you Mihalescu as well in the match engine, because that guy well, he's an absolute demon. Tom James scored to make it 3-0 there, and we are going to grab a fourth from the spot from that man, Braz. This season was our best yet by far, securing 47 points in the Premier League with a negative 15 goal difference, but now up to 12th place in the league. And despite a really rough patch of form to finish the season, we were just 10 points away from getting our first year in European football. So that was our clear goal for season number 15. But that wasn't helped at all by Rodrigo Braz having his release clause triggered by Newcastle United. However, we did just raise £81 million, and last season we kind of brought in the replacement in Giallo, as I thought he was going to go a year prior. The signing I've made to replace him is an absolute bargain. £6.7 million Argentinian striker Valentin Torres from Independiente. And if we couldn't get goals from our two strikers, which to be honest always happens, we can always look to our right wing new signing Gustav Søgaard, a Danish right winger who looks absolutely brilliant at 19 years of age. We also made a whole host of other signings like Faustino Portela from Bologna. We also made Vasilas Konstantinos, a Greek central midfielder who looks incredibly well-rounded to sit next to Mihalescu. Stian Eile was our next one from Rosenborg. After having success with the right winger, we wanted to see if the centre-back could also do bits. Pavel Jozwiak was signed from Legia Warsaw as a centre-back. Ernest Indeman Hule is a left winger we have signed. He did cost us £1.7 million and looks fantastic. And finally, Andreas Medina, another striker, £1.7 million. With these outrageous stats, this could be a very good season. While the team did look very different without our superstar Rodrigo Braz, I do now feel we have a much more well-rounded team with a fantastic midfield pivot of Konstas and Mihalescu, with a brilliant winger duo of Model and Idhomule, and actually a very strong strike partnership with Torres and Giallo, who again both complement each other incredibly well. And for this season, it was the first time we saw a real turnaround in our form. As a club, it was clear to see we had grown to the next level and were no longer a team battling relegation. We were even beating some of the modern day giants Liverpool and Manchester United 4-2, and all the goals were coming from our two strikers, Giallo, who grabbed 28, and Valentin Torres, who grabbed 24. While Rodrigo Braz scored just 16 goals for Newcastle as they finished down in 11th place, compared to us finishing up here in 6th place, with a rebuild of Valentin Torres replacing £81 million striker Rodrigo Braz. It's safe to say things have gone pretty darn well for Altrincham as we are playing Europa League football for the first time in 2038. Now, fair play to Newcastle. They must have won the Europa League because they are playing Champions League football next season. But this season, we improved massively. A 21 goal difference, 66 points, and I won't be surprised to see we are the top 3 now in terms of scoring goals, and we are working absolute wonders. Financially, the club is doing better than ever, and the squad, I mean, it's the favourite this squad has ever been for me. We have got superstars galore, all from different nations, and I've got to say, this has been one of the most fun rebuilds I've ever done because it's felt really rewarding to sign players for so cheap and turn them into absolute stars. And well, this time in the FA Cup, we got to the 5th round, knocked out by champions Manchester City, and the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup, knocked out by eventual Champions League side Liverpool, despite finishing down in 16th place. We are going to be now ready to step up as a club. We are now a European side, and we are now set our eyes on winning the Champions League. Get your comments in down below from here how long you think it's going to take us to become Champions League winners. And well, to be honest, it wasn't exactly the ideal start to making our European journey, as our star player, Yao Sibo, has left the club to join Saudi side Al Ittihad for £25 million. We did, however, find a fantastic replacement and a similar player who can play in lots of different positions in Eugene Savin, the Ukrainian centre-back who was at Celta Vigo, looks absolutely fantastic. He was one of just many signings though, as again, we were using the scouting method to find hidden region wonder kids. Craig McCalabia was the next South African to join from Orlando Pirates. Mauricio Fernandes was a brand new Uruguayan central midfielder who was signed from Defensor Sporting for a measly £1.7 million. And again, he looks absolutely brilliant. With 18 determination, this guy can go very far. Carlo Igor Bassa is another player joining from the Croatian leagues, a central attack midfielder with elite determination and consistency. Braulio Higueras is a Chilean midfielder who is going to battle with the Uruguay midfielder to take our starting central mid position. Slightly further on in his development, but less determined, so we'll see if he can make it. And finally, Stipo Kurut, another Croatian centre-back, again from Dynamo Zagreb, because they are the Wonder Kid farm on FM. He looks absolutely brilliant, but does lack a little bit of consistency. He has got the Wonder Kid tag, so we'll see if he can develop into one of the best centre-backs in the game. And from all of them signings, it is just Eugene Savin that joins the starting lineup. The rest of the team stays the same. If you can build a team that gets to the Europa League while spending minimal money, well, you might as well keep with that. So it is Torres and Giallo up front with Cedeno in the cam role, Blake and Model on the wings. Blake, the only real life player still in this team in 2038, is pretty cool. Konstas and Milescu in the midfield roles is probably going to be the partnership to win the Champions League. These two are both so young and so good, so I'm looking forward to seeing how they progress. Sar and Bakir keep up their defensive slots, and as mentioned, Savin goes into that libero role with Tishuwale still in goal. For the first time this season, we are no longer the worst team in the league, which is great. We are still 18th, even though last season we finished in 6th. I don't know if having the Europa League football is bringing us down in that season preview a little bit, but mentioning the Europa League, I would like to be very good in this. I would like to think we could at least get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals. You never know, maybe the final, and win it. And pretty soon, I'd like to win either the Carabao Cup or FA Cup as well. I don't want to end this rebuild by being the best team in the world, but never managing to win either the FA Cup or Carabao. Well, about that, the Carabao Cup is going to have to wait, as we got knocked out in the third round to Watford in a 2-0 loss, even though they're a mid-table championship side. But our story in the FA Cup was very different, and you join me here in Wembley against Burnley in the semi-finals of the FA Cup, who were given quite a nice tie, to be honest, but Burnley did not make this game easy. It was 1-1 in just 22 minutes, but a signing from a few years ago, Medina decided this game was going to be his game. He grabbed the assist to kick things off, and he's then going to go and absolutely smash this Burnley side. You can see a great ball there from Bernard, finding Medina in behind to make this game 2-1. And it took all the way to the 78th minute for Medina to grab his second of the game, giving us the 3-1 lead. But Burnley would fight back. In the 87th minute, Edhar on the left-hand side whipped it into the back stick. He looked miles offside, but he wasn't. Kojima scores and made it 3-2, and we didn't decide to sit back. That is not the way we play football, and Medina wanted his hat-trick, and he sends us to the final of the FA Cup for the first time in this rebuild, and it was going to be out of either Bournemouth or Arsenal in the final. And I think it's safe to say we are all surprised it is Bournemouth and not Arsenal in the final, which helps us massively. An absolute screamer from our centre-back Sar to put it in the top corner to give us an early lead in this game before a second comes from the left wing position, eventually dispossessed by Konstas. A great ball into Bernard. A 2-0 victory, and Altrincham are the champions of the oldest competition in England. And that's a pretty good place to be, because it also guarantees us European football for next season. That's if, of course, we need that, because we are, of course, in the Europa League, and in the starting positions, we finished down in 10th place, just 1 point away from getting into the round of 16, but it does mean we've got to do it the hard way and first off play in the knockout playoff round, where we faced up against Italian giants Lazio, and to be honest, we absolutely battered them. In the first leg, we won 4-2 at the Altrincham Stadium, and in the second leg, away from home in Italy, we won 3-0, meaning it was a 7-2 demolition in the first knockout games in our European journey. But next up was Manchester United, and a Manchester United side that still had Kobe Mainu that we managed to just about draw 3-3 with in the first leg at home. So when we were on our way to Old Trafford, I was expecting to get absolutely battered. but a straight red for Banks gave us more than a fighting chance, and we ended up demolishing Manchester United in a convincing 4-1 victory, meaning Altrincham are on the way to the quarter-finals of the Europa League in our first ever European outing. And we were staying in England for that European affair, this time against Tottenham Hotspur. Zane Blake whipped it into the back stick, and Sebastiano Bernard scored yet another goal for the club, making it 1-0 in 72 minutes. And we actually ran away at the OT Stadium 2-0 victors as Bernard scored once again. But our journey would come to an abrupt end as Spurs beat us 3-0 in the first leg, and I actually just showed you the second. So we lost 3-2 on aggregate, and our European journey was over. Now, I am aware of this, that I might not have showed you Sebastiano Bernard just yet, and that's because something happened. On the 18th of January, Brahima Diallo left the club to join Bayern Munich for £83 million and played just one game for them in the second half of the season, which really frustrates me. And that is why we have the replacement in Sebastiano Bernard, a Belgian striker who is 6'4" with decent pace, decent finishing, decent composure, and good flair. And you can probably tell, I'm happy that we've got a striker in, but he's not my favourite player. But in January, making signings is tough, so we did have to spend a fair whack to get him. It was £26 million, and he did perform very well this season. A 7.19 in his first season in the Premier League is great, but he's not my typical meta FM striker. I just hope he can do bits in the match engine, just like Diallo and of course the old man Rodrigo Braz could do. Who, by the way, since the last time we sat there and laughed at him for finishing down in 11th place, has just gone ahead with Newcastle United and won the Premier League. A 72-point season, by the way, winning the Premier League is absolutely ridiculous, showing we were actually just 21 points off that Premier League trophy in 51 points, 13th place, 16 wins, 3 draws, 19 losses, a -9 goal difference. Having the Europa League games certainly helped us, and losing Brahima Diallo hurt us quite a lot towards the end of the season as well. We lost the last 5 games against Forest, City, Wolves, United and Fulham, scoring just 2 goals in them 5 games as well, compared to the start of the season where we were scoring a whole bunch more. So a little bit disappointing to lose our star player, and it does certainly impact the team ever so slightly. Now, the fact that Valentin Torres is our star man worries me a little bit. I don't think he's Starman quality. I think he's Premier League winning quality, but I would need someone next to him that gives me more confidence than Bernard. So maybe that's something we look for in the future. Sedano in cam is doing really well. Model on the right wing, the same. His pace is absolutely electric. Zane Blake had a decent season. Konstas and Milishkrescu, as mentioned, is just absolutely fantastic. I'm aware that I've been slagging off Bernard for the last 5 minutes. He did grab a 7.31, and Medina, who we brought in a couple of seasons from Junior for just 1.5 million, did have a much better year this year. He grabbed 10 goals, 8 of them in the FA Cup in just 4 matches, which is absolutely mental. So maybe he is someone to look at for our starting striker position as well. In terms of finances this season, we've got £70 million to spend and £270,000 in wage budget. And of course, winning the FA Cups gives us qualification once again for the Europa League. And this time, I want to win it. Now, one thing that I noticed about our Europa League squad is there wasn't enough homegrown talent to where we could really bring through all of our star players. So this summer, that was my main goal. My first signing was English right winger Ike Akpan from Reading, who is outrageously fast while being 6'2". Next up was my boy Seamus, a central attack midfielder signed from Watford, the club that beat us in the Carabao Cup. He had a fantastic season last year in the Championship, grabbing a 7.07 rating with 16 goal contributions, and this year he's going to be a super cam for us. Archie Gray was my next signing. Yes, it's weird. We're still signing real players in the year 2039. At 33 years of age, Archie Gray has had quite the career, from Spurs to Stuttgart to Milan to Chelsea to Milan and now to Altrincham. He has been a bit of a journeyman in his career. He has got 49 caps for England, and we know how good this guy could be. As a rotational DM at 33, he is going to be brilliant for us, and he has basically got every trait in the book now as well. And someone else that is actually homegrown in nation is Leny Yoro. Due to joining Manchester United at such a young age and staying there till 2030, he developed the status, so we have signed him from Olympique Marseille for just £12.5 million. His career has actually been very average. He was at Sheffield United, then went to Leeds where he couldn't get many games, went to Burnley, went to Marseille where he seems to have found his feet in Ligue 1, and he's now coming back to the Premier League for £12.5 million. But as mentioned, more of a signing to fit homegrown status. And well, I couldn't do a whole season without signing some bargains. So for £73,000, Gibril Bar joins us from Generation Foot. Luis Lopez was up next, an Ecuadorian centre-back signed from the Barcelona Ecuador side. He is now worth 36 million and we signed him for just 2. Etienne Thibault is my next from CF Montreal. He is the Canadian national striker. He has 15 finishing, 17 composure, electric speed, and cost us just £6 million. I have loaned him back to Montreal because I don't think we need him for this season, and hopefully he comes back next year as an absolute star. George Mofokeng is another South African player we have signed, this time from Kaizer Chiefs. If you guys aren't signing players from South Africa, I would recommend it highly. They have some of the best wonder kids come through the academy all the time, and they always get catch the South African national team. So in your saves, if you're 5, 6, 7 years on, go and look at South Africa's team, look for their wonder kids, pick them up for 575k, especially if they've just had a 30-game season, grabbing a 7.48, and watch them become absolute superstars. And my final signing is possibly the best wonder kid we have ever had at Altrincham. It is Yannick Gross. Coming in from AA Ghent, he is an 18-year-old central attacking midfielder who has 9 caps for the Belgium national team already. He cost us just £17 million, and at 18 years of age scores 10 goals for the AA Ghent side in the top division of Belgium last season. He isn't exactly electrically paced, but he is technically fantastic, and his mentals at 18 are brilliant. He's already worth £92 million, and of course has that wonder kid tag to him as well. I've actually got him listed for loan because I don't want to stunt his development this season, so we'll see if he goes out. If not, he could provide as some fantastic rotation for us this year. Now, I have kept with a pretty much exact same side for this season, other than bringing Leny Yoro into that right-sided centre-back role for us this season for Altrincham. The rest of the team stays the exact same. I am keeping Bernard for this season as the striker to see how he does next to Valentin Torres. Let's get into the season and see if this time we can win the Europa League. This season's league phase in the Europa League went a whole bunch better than last year. We are skipping that pesky knockout playoff round as we finished on 21 points, a 6-point difference in 8 games with 7 wins and just 1 loss. And this time, the draws were much more favourable. First up was a 6-0 victory over Portuguese sides Vitória, before a 4-3 two-legged affair against Malmo from Sweden in the quarterfinals sent us in to the semis, where we were facing Atletico Madrid. And in the first leg, we drew 1-1, which means we had to come back to England and see if we could somehow take a lead. We did get a lucky goal thanks to an own goal from Rui Silva, but just 10 minutes later, Atletico Madrid levelled up the score at 1-1. Zane Blake then burst on the left-hand side just before the halftime whistle in the 46th minute, finding Stephen Giles in that cam role, scoring the all-important second in this game. And to be honest, having them English homegrown players was so important because the quality oozed from this side. Zane Blake found Torres to make it 3, and we secured our final position as Zane Blake burst on the left-hand side once again, finding Adrian Mihălescu to make it 4 and sent Altrincham to the Europa League final, where we'd be facing Borussia Dortmund, and there was only 1 goal in this game, and it came from Englishman Stephen Giles with a 180 volley into the top corner, and you can see Altrincham are champions of Europe in an absolutely dominating performance against German giants Borussia Dortmund, as we stuck 24 shots against them compared to their 8 and had 64% possession. And as mentioned, having that homegrown English core helped massively. With Blake, Giles and Akpan being our three in cam, with Euro in centre-back, it means there wasn't too many young, sort of not very good players that needed to be registered, as we had 4 players that could start straight away in this side. Now that didn't sadly help us in retaining our FA Cup trophy, as we actually lost to West Ham United 3-0 in the 4th round. And the Carabao Cup still eludes us as well, as we lost to Sunderland in the 3rd. And while it was another 51-point Premier League season, I was not worried at all. For season number 18, we were going to Champions League football, which means Altrincham are taking a massive next step in our growth. In terms of the club info, we are now a 4-star reputation side, and our training facilities have gone up to 3-star. The estimated value of the club is £1 billion, and we are now actually a bit of a superpower in England. Even though we're not, guaranteeing top 4 season on season, we've shown we can win trophies. We are super mega rich, and now we have the reputation of Champions League football. I genuinely don't think there's any stopping Altrincham from being the top club in the world. So first up this season, there was a whole bunch of outgoings. We raised 81 million in the early part of summer before raising another 98 million pounds. Medina, Bassar, Sedano, Zane Blake, Mikaleba and Barr had all left the club, but we had just raised some serious money. But it's not like us to go absolutely wild. We are going to stick to our principles. Number 1 signing is Mario Starokin, a Bulgarian striker who looks absolutely fantastic. Again, signed from Rosenborg for just £2.8 million. I've loaned him back there because I think for season 19, he could be our starting striker if he continues to grow at this ridiculous rate, because he's just 18. This signing is absolutely fantastic. It's Mamadou Mariko, signed from Guangzhou in China. He is a Malian international with 11 caps to his name already, and he is absolutely fantastic. He is the perfect winger for this team, because obviously we play with just a winger, no fullback, no wing back, no left midfielder, just that left winger. Having someone that can go up and down the pitch and even play in left back if we played that formation is so important. He went through the Academy JMG Mali before joining Guangzhou in China, played 8 games, got an 8 average rating and a release clause of just £3.6 million. I picked him up instantly. He is a wonder kid who is worth over £100 million and is already considered a good Premier League player. That could be the signing of FM history. Bojan Kovacevic was a centre-back I brought in from Augsburg for £10 million. Before signing the striker that I knew we needed, the best striker potentially in world football, Jonas Falk, has joined the club. At 22 years of age, he has 26 games and 14 goals for Denmark. He came through the Copenhagen Academy and last season had his breakout year, 11 goals in 18 games. And these stats are absolutely ridiculous. He's consistent, he's lights out quick, he can finish, he has good determination, great off the ball work, and we might now have our Champions League winning striker. Our final signing this season was Koji Tojescu, a Japanese left winger who I've signed and loaned back out to Yokohama to see if he can develop into a star as well. Another wonder kid, signed for just 6.25 million, 17 goals in 19 games last season. This guy could be an issue if he comes back as a star. So it feels like for the first time in quite a long time, this team is significantly different. Tushawale keeps his goalkeeping position with Bakir, Mofakin and Savin making up the defence. Fernandez and Milescu in midfield with Medel, Giles, Idamule, Falk and Torres as our attackers. I don't imagine Idamule is going to play too many games. I think Mariko is going to get that starting left wing position. We still, of course, have Lenny Yoro and Archie Gray, as well as EK Akpan. Gross wasn't out on loan last season, but did develop very well. Is a goal-scoring genius for Belgium as well, and still scored 3 goals for us last season in 20 games. Only 10 started, 10 off the bench, and a 6.89 at 18. That's not too bad. I think this year, though, he could break out into a star. Obviously, I'm not looking to win the Champions League this season. That would be outrageous, but I would like to give ourselves a decent run. And in the Premier League, for the first time, I would like to actually finish not just top 6. For the first time, I want to finish in the top 4. Now, I thought this would be the case, but Jonas Falk was an absolute issue for all Premier League sides. He had electric speed, but also fantastic dribbling ability, and you can see from this goal exactly what he can do to a team. He grabbed a ridiculous 24 goals this season and got 10 assists with a 7.31 average rating, which meant we weren't relying so heavily on Valentin Torres. He did score 16 goals still and get 10 assists, but as I sort of thought, this guy isn't the star man. He needs to be the understudy, and you can see that from the fact he's got 0 Argentinian caps. He's great for us, but he's not an absolute world star. Someone who very well could be, though, is Mohamed Abaru Mariko. This season, he grabbed 15 assists in just 14 games while having 26 come off the bench and 6 goals with a 7.12 average rating, and may have single-handedly got us into a European place this season. Our form throughout this rebuild has been pretty ropey. It is very difficult with a 3-2-3-2 to get us to consistently win games. But for the first time this season, we went on a 3-month unbeaten spell with stars like Yannick Gross and Ike Akpan coming into their own, and of course having that superstar in Jonas Falk to also score a whole bunch of goals. That meant that we finally had finished in a Champions League paying place without having to win a competition. We got 71 points this season, 22 wins and just 11 losses. And I think it's safe to say it's not just goals we excelled in. Idamule, Mariko, Akpan, Falk and Torres all had over 10 assists. While it was just Seamus Giles, Torres and Falk that scored more than 10 goals, it was clear to see that this formation, we'd sort of now tweaked a little bit, had started to really work as a powerhouse team. In the Champions League, we finished down in 15th place, which is pretty decent, but it wasn't enough to get us straight in to the round of 16. And sadly, despite winning in the second leg of the knockout playoff round 2-1, we lost 4-3 on aggregate to Villarreal, which meant our Champions League journey was over pretty quick. One person I am very happy for, though, is Brahima Diallo, who grabbed 30 goals for Bayern Munich this season and won them the Champions League. So it's good to see that this guy has kind of overtaken Rodrigo Braz. I feel like Brags sort of broke my heart moving to another Premier League club, and obviously it stings a little bit that he has gone on to win the Premier League before us. He has just grabbed 34 goals in 45 games for Newcastle, showing our sort of talent identification has been absolutely ridiculous in this rebuild. He is now worth £211 million and is wanted by Barcelona. So it'll be good to see if Braz does move on, if we can potentially have the best striker in the Premier League. And to be honest, I actually think we already do. This guy is an absolute joke and just 23 years old as well. He could turn into such a better player if we play this right. I am very, very happy with this team. I think next season, Mariko comes into that left wing role. I do think Yannick Gross becomes our starting cam. He is progressing really, really well and looks like a superstar. Modell has been a bit quiet in this rebuild so far, dropping down to a 2.5 star. We might need a brand new right winger. I do think our midfield is pretty set with Fernandez and Mihalescu. Mofokeng as a left-sided centre-back is brilliant. Bakir potentially needing to move on from, while Savin is brilliant. And Tushawale, I mean, this guy has been an absolute joke for us. He is now 29 years of age. We signed him for £500,000 and he has had 4 seasons above a 7 average rating in the Premier League. As a £500,000 signing, that is absolutely outrageous. So it's clear that for season 19, we were ready to take that next step, and it was quite easily identifiable the positions we need to improve to make Altrincham the champions of England. Now, I didn't plan on this happening at all, but I have sold Mauricio Fernandez to Everton this season because they just offered us 67 million, rising to 80 million for a guy that got a 6.9 rating last season. And I think we potentially have the players in the squad already, and we can certainly go and identify some players to replace him. So our first signing is Kobbie Mainoo. After 562 games at Manchester United, Mainoo has decided Altrincham is the place that he wants to go to. And the most amazing thing is that in Kobbie Mainoo's illustrious career, where he got relegated from the Premier League with Manchester United, he has won an FA Youth Cup, the Championship, the Champions League, no Carabao Cups, and a World Cup. So he has never won the Premier League with United. And we can confirm that by this completely mid little graph here for Manchester United, who for the last 10 seasons have been effectively a mid-table Premier League side, which absolutely breaks my heart. Which means officially for the first time in this rebuild, we can say we have broken up Manchester United and Manchester City, and Altrincham now sit as the second best side in Greater Manchester, with the goal of chasing down City. A goal that isn't going to be easy, as they are predicted to finish 5th this season. We are predicted to finish down in 12th. Now, there is some more signings this season, but I didn't want to go too wild. As I mentioned, I did kind of believe in this team to go on to be champions anyway. Now, number one was another Northern Irish goalkeeper, this time to come in and be the backup. It just signed from Leeds United to simply fit registration rules. Ryan Dack was my next signing from Newcastle United for £12 million. This guy looks absolutely outrageous. He has 5-star potential, great dribbling, determination and speed, and no one really wanted him. Last season, he played at Burnley, got 14 goals in the Championship. Apologies, just £5 million, not 12 million. And I think he's absolutely brilliant and is going to be a great rotational winger for us. The player that I have signed to replace Fernandez is Jason Gain from Colo Colo in Chile. This guy has got 13 caps for the national team and it looks absolutely fantastic, right? Well, he's cost us just £5.75 million and had 3 seasons in a row in Chile, grabbing over a 7.2 average rating. He looks absolutely brilliant and I think is a fantastic replacement for £5 million, considering we just sold Fernandez for 80. And our final signing is Canadian centre-back Gary Newell, who at 18 years of age has 29 caps for Canada. Again, coming from the Montreal Academy. We'll see if he can bring something into this side. And the team we have gone with for this season is Torres and Falk up front, Mariko, Akpan and Giles in cam. But as mentioned, I think Gross will play lots of games. Mialescu and Guane in midfield, with Mofaken, Savin, Bakir and Tushuale making up the goalkeeping positions. I did decide to keep Akpan this season at right wing because his pace is just electric and will break the Football Manager match engine. Sadly, we know that to be true. Koji Tukaseji is absolutely fantastic as well and can play on that right wing. He comes back from his loan spell in 10 days from Yokohama FM, where he has just grabbed 5 goals in 15 games and 6 in 9 in the last season, grabbing an average about a 7.25. So this guy could very easily come into the starting lineup as well. Other than that, I'm very confident in this team's ability to become the best in England. So let's see for season 19 if we can complete the challenge of winning the Champions League and the Premier League with Altrincham before the 20 season mark. Now, before we go any further, can I get a massive like and subscribe that everyone is watching this video, and a Danish flag in the comments if you have got to this point for Jonas Falk. 36 goals and 15 assists in 41 games. Might be the most outrageous striking position I've ever seen, especially for a tactic that isn't just built for one striker. Our other in Valentin Torres grabbed 20, and Jonas Andre Medel played lots of games up front this season, grabbing 28, meaning as a whole, our strikers grabbed nearly 100 goals as a trio. Our form this season was like no other. For the first time, we started the season in electric form. We played Manchester United, Liverpool and Arsenal in our first 3 games. We did lose to Arsenal, but beat United and Liverpool before going on a 3-month unbeaten spell, beating teams like Leeds United, Manchester City, Newcastle United by multiple goals at a time, before of course finally bottling a 2-1 against Crystal Palace. There was an absolutely mental game in January, a 16-goal thriller where we lost 10-6 to Liverpool away from home. Might be the most crazy FM game of all time. I've never had to scroll on both sides to see the amount of goals before, and this is the first team ever. There is 16 goals scored as well in just 36 shots, meaning both keepers just had absolute stinkers. I mean, I say that, Sabanovic for us, who played in goal in this game, grabbed a 5.8, but Therese Sharusta for them conceded 6 and got a 7.1, which is mental. Endrick got a hat-trick. Magmadov Zairanov, who was a Ukrainian winger, grabbed 5. Deverson grabbed a hat-trick. for us, in terms of goals, it was all just solo, which is sad. I actually just completely bottled that. That is key chances. Goals-wise, no one grabbed a hat-trick. I was completely waffling. I mean, that would have added up to 11, which would have been over anyway, so ignore me. I'm completely waffling. Jonas Volk did grab a goal in this game, but a 10-6 loss, I think is important just to highlight this mental tactic. We did then beat Manchester United 5-2, but lost then 4-0 to Southampton. And I was worried that the wheels were falling off this season, but that wasn't the case. We lost 2 games for the whole entire rest of the season, draw 3, and won the remaining 10. And Altrincham Town, for the first time in the club's history, are champions of England and the greatest club in Greater Manchester. Altrincham FC, Premier League winners. That is a massive tick in this rebuild. We have won the FA Cup, we have won the Premier League, and I'm rolling up my sleeves because it's time to see if we can make Altrincham Champions League winners. Now, to kick things off in the league phase, it's not a bad start when you finish in 3rd place behind Chelsea and Real Madrid, is it? So we're straight going on into the round of 16. When we were drawn up against a PSG side that was entirely made from regens. Jonas Andre Medel scored 4 goals across the tie as we beat PSG 4-2 on aggregate. In the quarterfinals, we were going back to England to face Everton, and in the first leg, we drew 2-2, but back at the OT Stadium, we absolutely took off. Medel, as a striker, was outrageous in the Champions League, linking up with Volk and Yannick Gross in that cam role. Sagaki had come back from Yokohama, and as that left winger, was outrageous as expected. He grabbed the second in this game. Mielescu found Higueras to find Saseki again to whip it in to the big leaping Medel at the back post to make it 3. And to finish off this tie as a 6-2 victory, Saseki again ran down that left wing position, hit the post, and Volk poked home. We were going to the semi-finals in the Champions League, where we were facing none other than Barcelona, who had a few real-life superstars. Number 1, Max Daumann, who has come through the Arsenal Academy and has ended his way up for 87 million, signing for Barcelona. Number 2 is a 35-year-old retiring Noah Darvic. And finally, a 34-year-old, 102 Spanish capped Lamine Yamal, who looks like an absolute joke. So we knew this one was not going to be easy. And first leg was in front of a 100,000 person crowd at the Nou Camp. Valentin Torres got us off to a great start though, making it 1-0, but Lamine Yamal with a tricky little ball to Gorman tied this game up at 1-1. Suzuki then found a great switch to Ike Akpan on that right wing, who drifted inside and fired an outrageous effort into the top corner to make it 2-1, and we grabbed the third at the Spotify Camp Nou as Medel drove forward, the ball fell to him again, Torres beats his man and fires home for 3-1. Barcevo made the game tight to take back to Altrincham as Youn ran down the left-hand side, whipped it in. Yamal got the ball once again before finding Darvic in the box for 3-2, meaning back in Manchester, we would just have to draw the game and we were going to the Champions League final. And that is something that doesn't happen a lot here in Altrincham. Drawing games using a 3-2-3-2 formation is basically impossible. So Jakey found Gross to make it 1-0 in 31 minutes, and 60 seconds later, we wanted a second. So Jakey again on the left-hand side found Valentin Torres to make it 2-0, and before half-time, the game was wrapped up. We were 3-0 ahead and a 6-2 win on aggregate as Altrincham are going to the Champions League final. Season 19 could be the year where Altrincham do it all. And it really had to be Leeds United in the final. A club that my team, Manchester United, are massive rivals of. And I'm sure Altrincham, if they got to this level, will be rivals of as well. So here's a Manchester versus Yorkshire derby. Can we win the UCL final? Well, just 13 minutes in, Leeds United were going to take the lead. A ball whipped in, bouncing about, and Cespedes scored to make it 1-0 in 13 minutes. We did bounce back in the first half, however. Gross found Giles, back to Gross, eventually finding Valentin Torres in the box to make it 1-1. and we were going to grab a second as well. Rian Dak, the signing from Newcastle, setting it back to null before getting in the box, setting it back to that man Stephen Giles to make it 2-1. Could we hold on? No, we couldn't. In the 75th minute, Cespedes ran through once again for cutting the ball back in, and an own goal from Kuralt made it 2-2. In the 90th minute though, Kobbie Mainoo found Diak to find Stephen Giles, who scored a screamer, and Altrincham were champions of the Champions League, and in 19 seasons we have built them from non-league nothingness to the champions of Greater Manchester, the champions of the Premier League, and the champions of the Champions League. This has been one of my most enjoyable and best feeling rebuilds we have ever done. I have used a tactic made by my partner to make it even more difficult. I have scouted players from random nations to build a team full of mismatched players that work an absolute dream. And we have won Kobbie Mainoo a Champions League and a Premier League before he heads off to retirement at 37 years of age. What a magical ending. If you did enjoy the Altrincham story, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will speak to you guys next time.